Welcome to the Danbury Dems. My name is John Gucker. I'm your host. This is what I call part two of another interview with Ken Gucker, who's the state representative from the 138th district here in Danbury, and also a part of New Fairfield, and also a part of Brookfield. We're going to be talking about a few things that are close to his heart, including the upcoming special session where we're going to be dealing with some issues that are in the news lately. Without further adu, let's bring Ken on, and he's going to tell us a few things for those that haven't seen the first session. A few things about himself for new people in the area that don't know him, and then we'll get to the questions. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, good morning, John. How are we doing today? I'm just going to correct you on one thing. I represent not Brookfield, but Ridgefield.
What'd I say? Brookfield?
Steve Harding will be upset that if I'm trying to horn in on his stuff, even though Steve Harding's a wonderful guy.
Did I actually say that? Okay, I'm sorry. Not Ridgefield.
but that's quite all right. So yes, for those who don't know me, I've been pretty much a lifelong resident of the area. I grew up in New Fairfield. I live in Danbury for the last 28 years. The rest of my life was in the town of New Fairfield. And I got involved in local politics and local activism through the communities around me, asking for help and assistance in dealing with local issues as far as land use matters, responsible development, things of that sort. So that's kind of what got me started. I started in as just helping people, and being an old Eagle Scout from Troop 42 in New Fairfield. One of the lines in the Scout Oath Law is to help other people at all times. So that's kind of what we try to do on a daily basis. But that's the real quick of it.
Okay. You're involved with a number of things. You've got the things you need to do, having to do with being the state representative for the area, or for that area, around the 138th district. But you also get involved in things that are not so defined, but everybody is concerned about. And there's a new BRT project that's been proposed and is in the mill, so to speak. Could you get into the things you've been doing with that issue, where a lot of your constituents are concerned, about this project that's being worked on?
Well, the number one thing, and again, like I said in the opening statement, was becoming a community activist and being out there for the community on local issues when we feel that we're not being heard, is how I got involved in this. And it hasn't stopped. And even if you're not my constituent, we still work to help all people of the area, because we do have a cohesive organization of representation here, trying to do what's best for all. And what we see is, we still have issues with irresponsible development going on. So BRT Sconset has a project that they started many, many years ago. I want to say a good 15, 20 years ago at least, up on Clapbaord Ridge on the Ledgemere property, which is where Clapbaord Ridge and I want to say Ledgemere Road intersect. They originally had subdivided the property, poured foundations, built a few houses for a private type community of very expensive housing. When this project was developed, the neighbors downhill on Eastwood Road, Eastgate Road, Wynwood, and all the areas down behind there, we're now suffering with environmental damage, dealing with stormwater runoff and things of that sort. Not to mention the blasting and drilling and all it takes, because Ledgemere Road is called Ledgemere for a reason. There's a lot of ledge up there. So now, after many years of this development not really moving forward, and I guess maybe the market not being there, BRT has come up with this over 55 overlay zone that would allow them to build a 250-foot, 5-story, 50-foot tall building on the ridge of Clapbaord Ridge, this high-density apartment complex. that would do nothing more but really change the character of the neighborhood. It would add tremendous amounts of traffic to the area, not to mention the environmental damages that it may do as far as with the construction. And the neighbors, I've been getting calls every day on this. People are upset.
How far along is it in the project? I mean, in the process?
So right now, it went to planning for review. The planning, the city planner, as well as the planning committee, gave it a negative, a very negative recommendation. So now it is in front of the public hearing and in front of zoning to decide whether they allow this overlay. Now, the other thing that people need to realize with this overlay, it affects any parcel of property that's 10 acres or more. And they've listed out about 5 other properties in Danbury that this could apply to. Some of the land on Route 37 by the Stacy Road intersection would be affected. The Cotswold land that I've been fighting and neighbors have been fighting to preserve for the last 18 years would be affected. Properties over in Lee Farm and properties over on the west side, properties down by the Reading border, all would be negatively affected by this, because if this was to go through, a developer could come in and say, even though I am approved for single family houses in a 2-acre zone or 3 or whatever the land use may be at the time, they could say, well, we're going to do an over 55 overlay, and boom, go from having a neighborhood that should have single family homes with that kind of character and throw in a high density apartment complex.
Right among their midst, as opposed to a zone which is geared for that,
Exactly. I mean, it's not good. I agree. It's probably one of the few times that I wholeheartedly agree with the planning committee on their findings on this, because many times I find, we wind up with having a pro high density development committees in the city. And it was very refreshing to see that bipartisanship came together and said, this is not good. But it has to go through the public process, because, an applicant has a right to present whatever they want in a public forum. So we're going through that process now.
Yeah, because the zoning could do a variance of some sort, right? Is that the word?
Well, it's not even a variance. What they're looking to do is amend the zoning laws. So to do a variance, they would have to spot zone this area, which is illegal. But to do a zone change, like many that were done for farming and other things in Danbury, for certain constituents, where they couldn't come in and spot zone a variant or a change because it was non-conforming, but actually come in and change the overall zoning regulations. And that's where you're letting the horse out of the barn. It's a bad idea here on Clapbaord Ridge. It's a really bad idea that now this could be spread throughout the entire city. And if we think that we have a school overpopulation problem now, just imagine these apartment buildings going up. And just because they say 55 and older does not mean you're not going to have children in these buildings.
And it's five projects.
Well, it's one that they're focusing on, but they're saying it could apply to 5 other areas of land. Yes.
Right. So it's quite a few people that could suddenly be coming in and making things a lot more difficult for everybody, at least tax-wise.
Well, tax-wise, traffic-wise, if anybody has ever tried to drive down Clapbaord Ridge, I mean, The applicant made it sound like, oh, it's fine, it's wonderful, it's a country setting. Not when you add 250 more cars to it. Because I'm sorry, even if you're over 55, I don't know about you, but I still have to go to work every day. So I would still need to, even if I want to live in this facility, I would still need to get out onto Clapbaord Ridge. I would still need to sit on that road, and I would still need to get to work.
Unbelievable. So what's next in the process? Is in front of zoning, and there's a meeting coming up, and a public hearing like in about a week from the taping date on this. Today is the Our taping, the day of the taping, is the 7th. So what you're saying is that roughly a week away, or is like the 15th or something?
So the meeting, so what's making this more difficult is the COVID situation. So everything has to be done on Zoom. The availability, even though the people in the planning department and city hall are doing their best to inform the neighbors and get the information out, their hands are tied in certain aspects as well. I mean, normally I would go down to city hall, I would open the files, I would start reading and review the plans because, you know, I have a background in that. And I would better understand what's going on. I've had to really rely on emails and scans and copies. And, you know, the workers at City Hall, and I have to give a huge shout out to Joanne Reed, who's worked there for a long time, who has gone over and above to ensure that people have information. So the meeting would be on July 14th. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. What I'm encouraging people to do is to email and or write the planning director your position on this. And you know, to email, you would email to Sharon Calitro at s.calitro@danbury-ct.gov. Or if you were not able or don't have the ability to email, I would certainly send a letter. And that would be, you know, Sharon Calitro, Planning Director, Danbury City Hall Planning and Zoning Department, 155 Deer Hill Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut, 06810.
How do you spell her name? So they got the spelling.
Calitro.
Okay.
Now, I would also encourage people that after 3 o'clock this coming Thursday, which would be the 9th, I believe.
The 9th is our taping date, the 7th. So this would be the 9th. I don't think the public's going to hear about that.
No, but what they can do is after Thursday, go on the City of Danbury's website, and there will be the instructions on how to participate in this Zoom meeting to be able to voice your opinion.
Oh, I see. So somebody listening to this, let's say on Thursday night,
yes,
could then go on Friday or Saturday or Sunday or any of those days and get up to speed on how to get on.
Exactly, and then they could get ready for the actual meeting on Tuesday. What they've asked in the past is that people send an email to Sharon to let them know that they want to speak. So when they show up in the Zoom meeting screen, she knows she has a list of people that would like to talk.
Okay, so they're on the list, and they can allow so many people to do so. Is it the same?
I'm encouraging people to write regardless, even if you're attending on speaking. Still send that letter because we're not sure. I mean, we could have a power outage. You know, we could have whatever. I mean, I would assume they would extend the public hearing yet again because it was extended last week due to this, due to these concerns. But we really need the public to come out. We really need information to be out there for people. And I'm always available to explain. In fact, all this week, every evening, I will be going out to all the neighbors in this community, knocking on their door to give them the information that they need to be able to express their feelings on this issue.
Very good. Now, is that pretty much it on this? Is it's imperative now because then within a month or 2 weeks later or something, definitely within a month, they will vote on it, whether or not it's an up or down deal. And how's the vote go? Is it a case of a simple majority, even if they're split, meaning the zoning commission?
It will be a simple majority, but here's the more important factor that needs to be put into place. Evidence for or against a project can only be presented during the public hearing part of the hearings. So in other words, once they close the public hearing, you will not be able to say you're either for or against or present any evidence. So all evidence gathering has to be done in transparency during the public hearing process. That's why it is so important that people get their voice out now.
Okay. So a commissioner knowing something, it doesn't mean anything. The evidence has got to be presented by the member of the public, right? Or am I wrong on that?
No, you are correct. I mean, the commissioners have their opinions they're allowed to express, but sometimes, evidence comes forward from the public that is normally they have to deal with this on an everyday basis. So they may have a different perspective that has not been brought forward as to how they feel or maybe, hey, I'll give you an example. I went to go check this project out last week. I stopped at the corner of Ledgemere and Route 39, Clapbaord Ridge, to make a left into a driveway that is going to be the back entrance for emergency purposes into this site. While I was sitting there with my directional on, heading southbound, and cars were proceeding northbound, waiting for an opening to be able to cross that lane to pull into this driveway, for some reason, I looked in my mirror and I saw a dark blue Toyota getting very large in my mirrors very quickly. This guy didn't see me, and when he did, it was too late, and he was on his brakes and couldn't stop. And at the last second, I just cut the wheel to the right and drove up on the grass. Gave him enough room to not slam into the back of me. Now, that's something that the committee should hear about. These are the conditions on this road, and you're talking about making it worse. Now, that's something that I wouldn't have been able to bring forward unless actually experiencing it. It's that kind of stuff that they need to hear so that they can make the proper decisions for all of us.
And if there's 200 people, 250 people that are approved for in there, there's going to be at least 25 to 50 at any time, one time, going up and down, getting milk or, making other errands or whatever. And, they don't all have to be on the road at the same time. That's what you're adding to that road.
Yep.
And that wasn't contemplated when all the building was done up there. All right. So that's just interesting. So make sure everybody, and can you give that one more time? If they want to email Sharon Calico, what's the email once again?
So it's s.calitro@danbury-ct.gov.
Okay, very good. Next, we're talking about the session, the special session. Has that been called yet, or do you have an idea as to when that's going to happen? Of the legislature, you're going to be talking about a couple of different things, but go ahead.
Right now, it has not been called. Of course, this is like herding cats, as I like to say, because we're trying to get 151 members of the House to come together, as well as 36 members of the Senate and the staff that is needed to do these things, but also to be able to do this in a safe manner that is not going to cause any problems with COVID. So right now, what it's looking like is the latter part of this month, probably around 23rd, 24th, 20th, somewhere in that week, it may happen. It has to be called by the governor. We have so many days to get this going, but it's this negotiation between all parties to get it done. And this will not be the only special session. They're talking about 2 or 3 of them because there are a good number of things that need to be done, and we don't want to really load up the session with a lot of agenda items that are just going to bog down the necessary things we need to be dealing with.
What's the most important thing that has to get done? I understand police accountability and the absentee vote, and maybe you can explain those and let me know if there's something else that I may have left out there.
In my eyes, and the thing that we really need to deal with is absentee voting for the general election, because in September, the governor's executive order expires. At this particular time, we're putting in that option. We are seeing throughout the entire country where many of these areas did not want to follow the CDC guidelines as far as wearing masks and social distancing. are seeing a spike in COVID cases. Connecticut right now is #1 in best dealing with COVID. Because of the actions that were done by the governor and leadership, we have kept people safe in the state, and we continue to do so. So it is a moving target as far as what will open, what won't open, what we can and can't do, depending on the science that's going on. And thank God we have an administration that believes in science, because that's the only way we're going to get through this. The #1 thing I want to see is no excuse absentee voting for November. Seniors and others should not feel worried about having to go cast their constitutional right of voting and worry about getting COVID, worry about getting sick, worried about how do we put all this together. That I am wholeheartedly in support. The facts show that it is the safe manner of voting. It's a proper way of voting. Many states have done this for decades. It's time that we get up to speed and do that. Ensure that the people of Connecticut are able to vote safely. Second,
not only that, but they've been doing it for the military for years. They've been sending their votes in.
Well, we were talking earlier before we got on the phone about people's tax returns, which by the way are due next week. But somehow we can get our IRS checks and all of our legal paperwork through the mail, but we can't do this. No, it's time for a change. It's time we modernize, and it's time that we give more people access to being able to express their ability and their rights to be able to vote for whatever candidate they want. It doesn't matter. It is a matter of getting the right to vote and getting people out there. So that is our #1 push. The police accountability bill that people are talking about because of the social unrest that's been going on. The way they've been working at is a bipartisan working with all sides, talking with leadership as far as from the Republican, the Democrat parties, dealing with police organizations to really come up with something that will be fair and just for all, not just, we're going to ramrod something through and people are going to be upset. I mean, and in that case, not everybody's going to be happy, but not everybody's going to be upset because we're dealing with a number of different areas that really need to be looked into. Things that are long time overdue.
Okay. So there's already a compromise being worked on by that committee, and you're not sure about exactly what the specifics are. And
they're not showing it. They're not showing it to us now because it's in the Judiciary Committee. Some people are saying, well, it's a Progressive Caucus, it's the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus. They have ideas they want, but it's going through the Judiciary Committee to ensure that this thing is fair and balanced for all and actually does what we need it to do. And we don't know what it's going to be in there yet because they're still working the negotiations out.
And they want to make sure it's constitutional. It doesn't get thrown out within the 6 months or whatever.
Exactly.
Right. So anyway, that's the time. Will people have any kind of a say in that? Or can they go and talk to the Judiciary Committee at this point in time, or soon, or is it going to be because it's special session? There's not much you can do about it until.
There's not much we can do about it at this particular time, given the late date, because we also, when we do go in the special session, we will also be dealing, with how do we vote. It looks like we'll be voting from our offices. So, you won't have the lobbyists, the special interests, the staff will be cut down to next to nothing. We need to do this special session in order to get these safeguards in place, but we also need to do it in a manner that doesn't endanger or affect how we're dealing with the COVID. So that really needs to, that's really what's driving the bus on this.
Right, and not only that, but the Judiciary Committee, the people around that committee are have a pretty good handle on what is constitutional and what isn't constitutional. So at the very least, you're going to have a constitutionally based law come out, specifically having to do with the police accountability.
Well, the other thing that goes on is anything that we do as far as these laws have to go through OPM, which is basically the state's lawyers. So this has to be looked at, and like you said, yes, it has to be constitutional, but it also has to be able to withstand any challenge or court case. Because with any good intention that may happen with a bill or without a bill, it does have to be able to stand up, and that's what they're going through now. But at the same time, there's also the negotiations. There is an appetite on all sides to get something done. What that is in the end, we don't know just yet. We'll know in the next week or so, but it really needs to be something that everybody can to get on board with and really understand that this is not only to preserve and protect our citizenry, but it's also to preserve and protect our first responders that have to deal with these situations.
That's very good. There's no other thing you're going to be dealt with in this special session. Like you alluded before, there may be another special session down the road, maybe in September or so. But for now, this is what you're going to handle at this point in time. And I'm thinking that might be when the next time would be for another special session. But then it'll have a specific. It won't be something general like is looking at the statues, or there's a question that came in from somebody about are any of the statues being looked at to sunset them. They used to sunset things after a certain number of years.
Well, once session closes, a lot of that kind of dies. I know in September we'll be looking at things like funding our schools, school construction, things like that. Right now, we really need to focus on the operational things that Connecticut needs to keep going forward. As much as these other things would be interesting to get into, at this particular time, we really need to hyper-focus, draw everything in close, and make sure that the people of Connecticut are in a place that is safe for all. And that's kind of where we're going.
They gave me the high sign. We got probably 30 seconds left. Your email and whatever people can contact you. Go ahead, and then we got to wrap up.
Well, like I said, my email is the best way to get a hold of me is kenneth.gucker@cga.ct.gov. And then always they can call me personally. In fact, I think somebody took me up on it last week. My cell phone is 203-733-4400. But definitely get out and make your voice heard on this BRT issue. It is not good for the city or the neighbors.
I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank the viewers for coming on to the Danbury Dems. I'll see you next week, same time, same station.